Hey everybody, I'm Dave from Growing the Home Garden. Sorry it's been a little while since my last update, but we have a 60-degree day right now, right ahead of some rains that are going to be coming in, and then again we're going to go back into cold temperatures. But it's a nice day to go out, kind of take a look around and see some of what is going on and what you might need to be doing. So today I'm going to go over and take a look at our shade garden so you can see some of what we have in the wintertime, how it looks, and some of the things that I'm probably going to need to do this spring. So here's kind of where our shade garden starts. And you can see here, I've got some hellebores right there, Lenten rose, another one over there. Right here is a viburnum, but you can't really see it too well. It's one of those snowball viburnums. And throughout here is usually where I would plant some coleus. But right now, there's not much here. I've just kind of tossed some leaves into the bed, and that's really all we've got. In the wintertime, you can see a lot of these weeds popping out, like this wild garlic that goes everywhere, and it's really kind of hard to pull up if the ground is tight and dried out a little bit. But what I really do like are seeing things like this coming out. That's a Lenten rose, and this one grew from seed by itself. I didn't do anything special with it. The seed just kind of spread from other plants. I think this is probably a hybrid of one I bought and one I was given at a plant swap. So it readily self-produces more plants, which is really kind of awesome. What I do like about them is that the deer never seem to bother them, and that can't be said with so many different shade plants like the hostas. Over on this side of the bed, you can see a few different things. Like right here, that's an oak leaf hydrangea, and you can see how the flower buds have dried out over the wintertime. Probably have some seeds in there. I don't generally get any kind of self-sown seedlings from the oak leaf hydrangeas, but I always look for them. Over here, this is a crepe myrtle that helped to produce a lot of the shade for the shade garden area, one of several. And I just love the color of the bark. I mean, if you just check that out, it's nice and smooth. It's got a little bit of mottling on it, which just makes it look really great. It's good for wintertime interest. And over here, this evergreen is hemlock, and it is just a gorgeous plant. Of course, in Tennessee, we do have some invasive pests that like to suck on the juices of these, the hydrangeas, and they have decimated the hemlock, so I think it's real important to plant a few of these here and there wherever you can. It makes a very good privacy screen, and it looks very natural. Over here, there's another one that we have. I had about 3 or 4 here. A couple have died over the years, though. Kind of have a little gap right in this area, but this is mostly filled with hostas during the growing season. Again, here's another hellebore that you can see has grown from seed. Got some weeding that we're going to need to be doing. Over there, we've got some pachysandra. Here's the hydrangea arborescens, smooth hydrangea, and beautiful flowers on it. It is a native hydrangea, so it's a good one to plant. Over here, more pachysandra. It makes a pretty good ground cover, but again, it's not a native plant. This here is a viburnum. It hasn't really flowered that much just because it's got more shade, but this is what it looks like in the wintertime. There's no leaves on it. It is completely deciduous. Right here is a fothergilla, which is a great native plant. It has some really good fall color, and in the spring it gets these flowers that are kind of like cotton balls that pop up here. It looks really cool. This bed, usually I've got peonies, and you can see they're usually in this area there, but you don't see much from them right now. There's some irises right here. This bed used to have sunshine. It doesn't anymore, so I've been transplanting these irises to other locations and potting them up. See, there's another hellebore that's popping up. And I think this was one of the peonies, and you can see way down in here, just a little top of a bud coming. Got a couple Korean boxwoods here at the entrance. And this is our arbor. You can see it without any kind of foliage all over it. We've got a grapevine. It's a Concord grapevine over there. It does produce a little bit, but it doesn't really tend to be very great fruit. It's more ornamental growing up on this arbor. On this side, you've got a Japanese maple, and there's our rain barrel. And down here is another hydrangea. What's cool about this hydrangea is that it has layered itself down here And I probably have about 3 plants that I could dig up and separate out and plant in other locations. If you ever see a low-hanging branch off of a plant, you just have to pin it down with a rock or some sort of like a landscaping pin or something like that. Stick it down in there and it will gradually root over time. Very easy way to propagate plants with low risk to either the plant or the cutting. And of course here we've got a lot more hellebores. You can see these are going to be white when they bloom. Those over there, they've got purple, and I think a blend of those was the one on the other side over there that I showed you earlier. Now down below them, there's usually some seedlings. And I think, here we go. There's a couple seedlings from them that I can transplant and put in other locations. Right here, you see those 3 leaves, right like that. Those are baby hellebores or Lenten roses. And if you're ever going to sow them and try to grow more, you want to do it with fresh seed. They don't like to dry out, so you want to plant them in the fall as soon as you've got them, and just keep them outdoors, and then they'll spring up sometime in the spring. And there's always some bad stuff in the garden. This here is some sort of a canker that's happened to a constellation dogwood. Constellation dogwood is kind of a hybrid dogwood that usually is supposed to do really well, but in this particular spot it really hasn't. I mean, we've got this kind of an issue happening. It's still alive and still going, but it does have some issues, as you can see. So as you can see, there's a big difference between a spring garden and a summertime garden and a winter garden. In the spring and the summer, you've got a lot of growing options. You've got the foliage of many different colors and types. In the winter, you're going to be looking more for dried flowers, dried leaves, things that spark some sort of interest to them. Take, for instance, ornamental grasses are excellent for a winter garden. The hydrangeas, like this oak leaf hydrangea right there, or the hydrangea arborescens, if you've got dried flowers left on them, that gives you a little bit of interest too. Bark is another great idea. So if you've got something like a red twig dogwood that has these really bright colored stems on them, red twig dogwood, yellow twig dogwood, any of those kind of things that create some sort of visual color in the wintertime are excellent choices to add some winter interest. Right now my garden doesn't have much. The Hellebores do an excellent job of creating something. Some of the evergreen plantings, the Pachysandra does all right, creating kind of an evergreen ground cover. But there's not a whole lot of a pop to the garden right now. And that's okay. My garden was built mostly in the summertime. That's when I'm outside in the yard the most. And in the wintertime, we are a little bit more sedentary inside the house. We're working, we're doing busy things, kids are in school, so you're not outside quite as much in the cold. But anyway, I'm Dave from Growing the Home Garden. Hope this was interesting. If it was, hit the like button. Please subscribe, and we'll catch you next time in Growing the Home Garden.